my
No,
sound.
so there was a question here about basically when you start using Auro because you have the speaker right above the other one. Is timbre matching more important? It's something that I was thinking about because it's 30 degrees up,
You can kind
and
of hear it and localize it, and
is that more
not like
important in the case when you're using Auro compared to some of the other ones where it's above you?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. And I was busy myself in the beginning a lot with it because it confused me the hell out. I was not sure what I was hearing. Let's say the moment when you have a speaker moving upwards, it's a completely different feeling than moving a speaker in a horizontal axis. When I was moving a speaker in a horizontal axis, I have the feeling from okay, the sound was of course a little bit changing, but not much. But the moment when you started to put it in the vertical axis, so many new things came on that I was never thinking about. Yeah. And then it took me a while to understand how this whole head-related transfer functions were working and how, let's say, in the vertical axis, let's say our hearing system is more sensitive for different kind of, let's say, frequency parts of the frequency spectrum. And so what I was doing as well, if I put the height speaker on, first of all, of course, the angle and the tilt, yeah, how it's being tilted. So, and then another topic, Joe, was let's say, do we need the same brand? Do we need the same speaker? How important is getting the same speaker in the ear level as a top? Yeah. And what I found is you can use smaller speakers on the top. Of course, there needs to be a kind of a balance between them. You cannot use really large speakers on the ear level speakers and then like very, very small ones on the top.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but let's say typically, let's say you can take like one or two models smaller, yeah, for the top speakers. And the reason why is that there are different reasons why. Yeah, most important is the following. Most important is that height layer speakers and the top layer speakers, they can at least produce clearly a sound, let's say, from 200 hertz. Even 150 hertz is better. And it all has to do with the fact that our brain is very sensitive for three-dimensional modes down to that frequency. The moment you have only, let's say, tweets or something like that in your top, yeah, then it doesn't work anymore. The three-dimensional impact is gone. I found it down the moment when we were trying to put Auro 3D in cars. In the beginning, we said, "Oh, there's no space for a large speaker," so we did just like a tweeter there. And
right.
I don't know
It
what
did sound good.
the effect is gone. While I was using before I was doing with M cubes. You know M cubes. These are like speakers from $50. Yeah, I was doing tests to see is the three-dimensional effect related to the quality of the speaker or not. Is there like because I wanted to understand in the beginning. I did hundreds of tests to understand in a dry room does it work better or worse, in a wet room, in a high room, in a small room, all that kind of stuff. So how easy is to get that same experience translated to everywhere? And I was impressed how easy that was going. Even I told you I think last time, yeah, when I was let's say doing a recording in a car with reflections. And I was playing it back in a large room with a lot of reverb. Yeah, so that was much more reflection and reverb than I was hearing in a car. Although you still were feeling very clearly the car reflections coming out of the speaker system. Our brain is easy capable to, let's say, to analyze the sounds coming, let's say, from that source and the real environment we are in together. Our brain is really handling that. Yeah. So all this kind of stuff, and then of course, let's say what I found, and I think it's very important. There has to be a color match from the timbre between your ear level and your height speaker and top layer. If you have installed the top layer, voice of God. And typically, what you do is take the kind of same brand. If you have like a certain brand, if you use like,
I just did that.
yeah,
Yeah, I took out the SVS that was on the ceiling, and I put these little focal domes, which have this crazy angle, so I can adjust the angle from 90 degrees. And so some of the places where I have to mount them, like I can get a nice severe angle because my room's all messed up. But So it matches the fronts and the surrounds and stuff that I have. So they use the same tweeter drivers, the same mid-range drivers, and all that kind of stuff. So.
All right. Here's a question from Chris Wyndham. Thank you for the super chat. Would bipole or dipole speakers work? I assume he's talking about the height.
That's a good question. The point is, let's say these dipoles, let's say these speakers, they were, in fact, this concept was made to reproduce a cinematic feel. You know, in a cinema theater, you have this kind of arrays of speakers.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have, let's say at home, if you're just like two speakers, yeah, with this technology, you can create a little bit more a diffuse field. Yeah. But let's say if you go into music where you like to have it discrete, then the question if that's the right way of working. Typically what I do is if you really want to have that kind of more diffuse field sound, then you can put an array of speakers as well. Yeah. So that's sometimes interesting if you have like a 7.1 bottom. Yeah. Then you can create that kind of diffuse field as well, even if it's a 5.1 playback. But it's always like very tricky. You know, there you're like coming in a very difficult, how do you call it, compromise between, let's say, the original intent and playing it back in the way it is being created. Just know that when they create a cinema, a movie for cinema, those are all mixed in diffuse field with using speaker arrays. That's the way they are being mixed. The moment then they're going to a home installation, it becomes suddenly a discrete thing, because then the playback is just like let's say it's 5 or 7.1 in the past. Now it's all immersive. Yeah, typically they take like our 13.1 is a very, let's say, very much used format because it covers everything. Yeah, but they do very much in our 11.1. And then let's say we found now speaker layouts, one common speaker layout where it is so close to Dolby that they can use almost the same speaker layout for, let's say, the both formats, which is very interesting too. So that's what we discussed last time. Yeah, if you put it in a certain way, yeah, you can have all these things together. Oh, I think our Michael felt away.
Oh yeah,
he's digging something out of his eye.
He's picking his nose right now. Is he picking his nose?
He's taking his shirt off. I don't know what's happening.
Here's Mike G. Thank you for the super chat. He asked if I add heights to the front and back for Auro 3D, will or can my top mid L&R Atmos speakers then become voice of God?
That's a good question. And I think that's a very nice approach, because let's say typically with Dolby, you have the speakers much closer overhead, and you can use those channels as the voice of God channel. And there is at this moment, there is one of the AVRs, I think is it from Denon? I think, and they have already, or like, there are like a few AVRs now. You know, in total, we have like 75 different models out now in more than 10 different brands with Auro 3D inside. And I know there is a few models out, yeah. Of course, the top models like Trinov and things, they can all kind of do it. Let's say, but in the mid-price class, let's say in the mid-price, there is, I think it's a Denon one. I'm not sure it can
be. The 8805, that's our top level one. It pretty much does everything.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and that one is capable, let's say, to do this switch so that you can use the Dolby layer as, let's say, the voice of God layer for Auro. Then, of course, you don't have a top. You know that then you have just like again, and then you make let's say, an array of speakers above your head, but it works fine. Yeah. I think that's a good solution to create, let's say, the 3 layers. Yeah? But then you need to have, let's say, the voice of God channel, let's say, close enough to you, yeah, overhead enough, let's say, to like 65 degrees or something like that. Then you can then you have both together. Yes, then you're coming, in fact, to the kind of concept I was showing here in the room.